Our whole division caught a British convoy, we called it, and they put my regiment on HMS Samaria, His Majesty's Samaria, an old transport ship of some kind. I'll tell you, it was hot down below. The food was atrocious. It was dangerous. They would go so far and then they would change course so the German submarines wouldn't sink a bunch of us. And one time during one of those zigzag operations, the big ship next to us didn't get the right signal and it came right toward us. Turned and bumped right up against, actually bumped our ship. I was down below and I heard the guys up on deck hollering, hey, you know, hollering out loud, and I ran up there and that ship was just a few yards off of, and they said, well, it actually bumped us. And so it was dangerous. Took 11 days to get to Liverpool from Camp Shanks, New York. We got to Liverpool and we stayed on board that ship for hours and hours, I guess waiting for convoy to come and get us. We didn't know, but while we were waiting, I didn't smoke, but I had these packs of cigarettes. I'd throw them down to the civilians. You know, cigarettes were pretty scarce, especially for the British. When we got settled there, the cigarettes cost 35 cents a carton. Unbelievable, 3.5 cents a pack. I didn't smoke, never did in my life, but I would buy them and then give them to the civilians that I had met or to the other guys. But can you imagine cigarettes at 3 cents and a half a pack? We were taken to a base at Ramsbury, England. It was an old, I believe, World War II British base. It wasn't very big, just a small one. And my battalion was placed there, up on the hill by Ramsbury. And we were spread out all around that county, you might say. This wasn't a big base, but we were there for 8 months before the invasion. But we trained out in the Brussels sprout patches, out in the fields, followed the little clear streams. Berkshire County in England's a beautiful county, very nice. We had no hot water there at the barracks, and no hot showers, no hot water to shave with. I don't know why they couldn't get hot water. And the barracks weren't heated. They had some, what they called coke. It's like a coal, but it was always wet, and you couldn't keep it burning. So we just bundle up with our overcoats and take it, or get in bed if we had any time off and cover up. But it was crude living. The food was edible. Old Zeoli, our cook, we all liked him, but we all said that he couldn't boil water. But he'd cook these scrambled eggs. They were powdered scrambled eggs, 2 done. And they'd be burned, you know, and we'd eat them anyway. And he'd make stuff like we'd call slumgullion and SOS. It's just a get-by. But heck, we were doing pretty good on it. Always oatmeal for breakfast. You always had sugar and oatmeal and powdered milk. Just pour it on there and eat it and like it. Beats nothing, I'll tell you. But we survived it, and 8 months of training, and we were told we're going to the marshalling area. This was early June of 1944. So we were taken off down, we went by Stonehenge, down in near Exeter and Taunton, Barnstaple, down in, I guess it's southern England, out of London quite a ways. And that was what we called the marshalling area. And we prepared for a week. We got all of our medical supplies, and the other troops were getting ammo and machine gun, you know, ready to jump with them. And then came the day. We were supposed to jump on June the 5th, but the weather was too bad. That would have meant we would have been getting on the planes on the 4th. So the invasion was postponed 1 day until the 6th. So on the afternoon, late afternoon of the 5th, we were taken out to the plains. Everything is highly secret. Nobody got in and out of that marshalling area all of that week. Nobody came in. Everything was highly secret, which it should have been. Amazing today how they tell the enemy how many troops they've got and what they've got. But anyway, everything was highly secret back then. And we got our stuff together, and President Eisenhower came early afternoon, maybe around noon, and he stayed all afternoon. And he saw every plane off, to my knowledge, or he was there to watch it go. And those who knew him close said that he waved to most of the planes, and at times he would have a tear in his eye. And I don't doubt it. The other generals had told him there might be an 80% casualty list of the airborne, and it actually was close to 60. I don't know who this is climbing aboard, see all of his gear. There's his Browning automatic, and he's got his main chute, and he's got his emergency chute there in front. He's got all of his stuff tied to him. That's the way a lot of us looked boarding those planes. And it was kind of hard jumping with all of that. Sometimes some of it would tear loose and fall. You really had to have your head up on a jump field. There were a few helmets that fell, and there were shovels, and things would fall. That opening shock, if it was strenuous enough, I mean real severe enough, it would rip some of your stuff off of you. I tell you, you look at the moon that's trying to shine in behind clouds, and you think of the moons that shine so beautiful here around my home here in Arizona, and you think of your family, and you feel that you're going to make it back. You know the odds might be against you, and you think of your friends, but mostly your closest relatives. And you think about the guys you've made such good friendships with, hoping they make it. They don't, not all of them. You just think about just about what you could imagine. We'd like to go over there and get the war over with and come home. You know, the paratroopers had the reputation in Paris and places that we were ex-convicts with no thought for humanity. The Germans had spread that propaganda, but that wasn't the case. These are genuine gentlemen, and they still are after all these years. We were very glad to get out of the plane. Tickled to death to get out of the plane. Yeah, you're supposed to jump real fast, get out of that plane, so when you land you're assembled, or at least you can assemble. Well, after a few had jumped in my plane, why, a guy fell down. You know, it's heavily laden with stuff. He fell down. So it took a few seconds to get him back on his feet. He had ammo strapped to his leg, a lot of weight, and we were hollering, "Come on, let's go." I remember hollering, "Come on, let's go." I'm back at the tail end, being the medic, and we were anxious to get out of the plane. Faster the better. And I watched the guy go out the door just in front of me. They do it quickly. You go out the door and you're supposed to turn and sit in the air. So you go out at an angle and you face the tail of the plane going this way. So I jumped and I had a bad body position. It was not good. And boy, that opening shock was enough to put a strawberry on your shoulder, but it was welcome. It was a hard opening shock. What had happened, I was probably had my feet up in the air, and when the chute opened, my body went like that at the end of the riser, or at the end of the straps. But it was welcome, like I say. And I only oscillated twice and hit the ground. So I was only about maybe 350 feet at the most. And came in backwards. My heels hit first, and I did kind of a back landing. And boy, right away you got a get into action. So I whipped out my trench knife and stuck it in the ground right beside me where I could grab it, and then I unbuckled, you know, and tried to get out as quick as I could. Chest strap, you got to throw away your Mae West life preserver in case you go down in the ocean. You're on ground, you threw that away. Get rid of your gas mask. We could see there's no gas. So you start getting rid of stuff, and got out. It just took several seconds. Then you start looking for some of your buddies. Yeah, it's important, very important. I've written that in detail. You may have read it.
I did.
Yes, and boy, oh boy, firing going on everywhere. You could see these tracers burning out, and you know there's 4 bullets in between every one of them, and a lot of machine gun sound, mostly machine gun. Gosh, nothing had hit the beach for 5 or 6 more hours, and they were doing no dive bombing in the middle of the night. But boy, come daybreak, they were hitting those beaches with those planes. Yeah. The gliders caught hell in Normandy. It was dark and no place to land. The fields were small, and true, there was a little moonlight popping through at times, but the Germans had set up telephone posts and run cables between them, and the value of gliders, they weren't spread out. They could get that glider down, open that nose, and drive a Jeep out, and then get the troops out, and there you are with your rifles, submachine guns, your Browning automatics, grenades, everything right there on you. And you can disperse and make a plan. We were called paratroopers. They were glider men. We called them glider riders. That's a little bit derogatory, but you know, we liked them, and they were part of the unit, you know, very much so. So they had 4 years to prepare for this landing, and they had done a pretty darn good job under German General Rommel. And Rommel had set up these really tough beach landing devices where you couldn't get in there with landing crafts. They're out in the water. They were jagged scrap iron looking items. So they were pretty well prepared. And it didn't lack too much not being successful. You know, there was a question, would it work or would it not? But thank God it did. We had superior numbers and awfully hard on the landing crafts. A lot of troopers drowned, heavily laden, jumped out into the water too far out to sea, couldn't make it in. And overwhelming odds, superior air superiority. Our dive bombers hit those German bunkers, those pillboxes there above Point du Hoc all along. At Omaha Beach, it was the toughest. The British and the Canadians had it a lot easier on down the line, Juno and Sword beaches. I've been back 4 times and looked at those beaches now. I was 3.5 miles approximately inland. We didn't land right near the beaches unless we had a delayed landing. And like I say, it was very dangerous, and the Germans fought very hard. There's a little view of Saint-Côme-de-Mont up there in the upper left corner, and then down about the lower center is a place we called Bloody Gulch, Dead Man's Corner. It was severe fighting right there, and that's right where I landed, right near there. And I was within maybe, say, 300 yards of that little intersection. But Saint-Côme-de-Mont, France, is a little small farming village, but a big name on the map of my life and that of a lot